And even though no notice was required for this meeting, being an emergency meeting, we have posted the meeting notice on the website and sent via Gov delivery. All right. We'll just once again establish that there is a quorum present, and notice was not required, as mentioned. And excuse me if I'm a little choppy. I'm trying to work off of 3 different devices. I can't get a printer to work, and so I'm having issues here. But we'll get through this. Okay, need to announce that if our teleconference is for some reason disconnected, we will shoot to reconvene at 2:30 today. And I'll at this time turn to agenda item number 2 and ask Mr. Velez to present.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is Mike Velez with the Public Utility Division. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you well. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, good afternoon, Commissioners. Mike Velez on behalf of the Public Utility Division. We are here on the application and motion to advance to the Commission and bank for a hearing in cause number CD 2021-0238, 00238. This is the joint application of Brandy L. Reith, Director of the Public Utility Division, and Robin Strickland, Director of the Oil and Gas Conservation Division, Oklahoma Corporation Commission, for an order of the Commission authorizing an emergency increase in the statewide proration formula for unallocated gas wells in response to the existing severe weather disaster threatening the public health, safety, and peace. The joint application and pre-filed testimony of Mr. Reith were filed today and sent out via .gov delivery. This application and motion are of an emergency nature and time sensitive. The time requirements for a public notice of a special meeting or a regular meeting of the Commission would make the procedure for such a meeting impractical and increase the likelihood of injury or damage or immediate financial loss. Therefore, the applicant's request and urge it to be set for hearing immediately before the Commission and bank. And Your Honors, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Mr. Les.
I was just going to say,
ready to call a witness.
Thank you. Mr. Reith is ready to be sworn in, and PUD is ready to present its testimony.
All right, Mr. Reith, would you raise your right hand, please? Mr. Reith?
Yes, Commissioner. I am ready, and hand is raised.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, Mr. Les, your witness.
Thank you, Commissioners. Will you please state your name for the record?
Brandy Lloyd Reith.
Mr. Reith, by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm the Director of the Public Utility Division and Consumer Services for the Oklahoma Corporation Commission.
And have you previously testified before this commission, and were your qualifications accepted at that time?
Yes, I have, and they were.
And for your testimony filed in this cause today, February 15, 2021, do you have any corrections or additions, or are there any updates to your testimony since your testimony was filed?
I would say at this time that even though it was just this morning since the testimony was filed, there have been further significant developments in the storm response related to the electric and natural gas grids across the state. There has been some updates to the Southwest Power Pool's emergency response, and they have elevated to a level 3, which involves curtailment and load shed of customers, which has already begun as of about a half hour ago. The natural gas companies have also reported some significant loss of pressures, and that many, if not all, of the gas processing plants on some of the systems across the state are experiencing freeze-off, which is causing some significant issues on getting actual commodity onto the transportation and distribution systems. And so we would like to actually address that as well today, or at least get that up for a request of action of the Commission to make some adjustments to some of the the provisions of how gas flows on the system and make some additional requests that the companies be ordered to basically make decisions of gas flow based on public health, welfare, and safety. And that's necessary for many reasons, but would be happy to discuss that if the commission is amenable to bringing that topic up, since it has just occurred here within about the last hour.
Thank you. And Mr. Reith, since your testimony, your filed testimony is not notarized, do you swear or affirm that that testimony is true and correct to the best of your belief and knowledge?
I do.
Okay. Commissioners, PUD moves the testimony of Mr. Reith into the record and would stand for any questions.
As testimony is admitted, are there questions? Mr. Reith.
Yes, this is Commissioner Anthony. Unless somebody else wants to go first, I've got a few questions.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Reith, could you name the two largest gas distribution utility companies in the state? It'd be Oklahoma Natural Gas, or go ahead.
Yes, Oklahoma Natural Gas and CenterPoint Gas Distribution would be the largest regulated gas distribution in the state.
And it's my impression from watching the news and watching email communications that they've sent out press releases and notification to the public that there's a very critical shortage situation. Of course, you mentioned a couple of developments that have even happened, say, within the last hour or two. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. The companies have issued curtailments on the customers that have tariffs that allow for interruptible. They have also, within the last hour or so, been reaching out to other customers that are transport other than end users like municipals that are transport customers. They've been reaching out to them and requesting immediate curtailment and lowering of their flow or facing disconnect, because the purpose there, of course, is to ensure that there's as much gas flow as possible to ensure the public safety for the residential customers, as well as electric generation, which is critical right now because we're facing these rolling out curtailments from Southwest Power Pool.
Thank you. First of all, I want to compliment the Public Utility Division, of which you're the head, and the Oil and Gas Conservation Division for working together to bring this matter to our attention. In your application, I think you give overwhelming references to the nature of the emergency, and you further offered detail. I would offer an overview and a historical comment of my own, that the Kansas Corporation Commission and the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, it's my understanding, are the only two of the 50 states that have the Public Utility Commission as a part of the same regulatory body that does oil and gas conservation. So it's interesting that we have a situation, and the way Oklahoma is organized with its corporation commission, we're able to deal with the big picture. We can deal with production on the one hand and the consumption or the consumer side on the other hand, or you could talk about both ends of the equation, and you could talk about, in some regards, this is like a one-stop shop for us to deal with some of these critical issues. Having said that, I'd like for you to give us a little more background or information. Obviously, this has all come at very short notice, but tell us who brought the situation of shortage of natural gas supply to your attention. Was it Oklahoma Natural Gas? Was it the Attorney General? Was it the Secretary of Energy? Was it the Governor's office? I understand more than one of these people, fortunately, have been working together. But give us a little bit of background on how this came about.
Absolutely, Commissioner. What I would say is the first initial contact is fuzzy because there's been so many. There has been ongoing collaboration since actually earlier this week. Some of the emergencies for smaller providers actually started before the storm hit because it was cold enough that they were experiencing freeze-offs. But what has happened is there's been communication between myself, Jeff Rush, who's my head of the energy group, as well as discussions with the oil and gas division. There's been cross discussions there, and actually as well as transportation division. Mark Willingham's been assisting too, because there were some issues on getting CNG trucks moving and finding drivers. So there's really been collaboration between all the directors at the agency. But these discussions about the gas shortage were coming up in regular updates. We've had what I've called a rolling phone call where we're talking to one person and the next, pretty much nonstop since Friday. Between the Secretary of Energy's office, Secretary Wagner has been wonderful in collaborating with conversations, getting the folks together. And then there's been regular updates from each of the utilities, as well as direct communications with Southwest Power Pool. Their leadership team, the Director of Regulatory and the Director of Operations, have both been on multiple calls daily with us, kind of keeping the situation assessed. So it was through those conversations that it was identified that the gas supply was getting to this dangerous level, and in conversation with Secretary Wagner and with the governor's office and looking for anything, everybody's basically looking what can they do to help. Emergency management, Mark Gower and his folks have been involved in these discussions, and of course Matt Skinner from our offices. And so one of the things that came up first was the proration issue. Well, that's not going to be a bullet that will fix this because this is a large issue. It was just one arrow in the quiver, so to speak, that if we could get this limitation lifted, that even if that helps one small system or one customer, it is worth it to get this done. Because the conversation with everybody has been one of, without being dramatic, we're talking about actual lives at stake here. As you all know, these temperatures are the lowest we've seen. They're record-setting. They're what we're all calling unmodelable. We didn't have models to look at something because this just has not been an occurrence that we have faced like this in Oklahoma. So the discussion, I would say, Commissioner, I'm proud to say that it would be interdivisional, interagency, and a public and private collaboration in discussions of what's going on, how do we best handle this, and what do we do literally, what steps can we take towards trying to save lives from, losing the gas systems or losing the electric system for long extended periods of time. Because, for example, like with the rolling outages we have right now that are maybe about an hour at a time, and those will go by circuit working with SPP. If we don't get this under control and take actions, those 1 hours could turn longer, or we could lose whole power plants. And those aren't speculations at this point. They're realistic possibilities if some steps aren't taken to assist in getting this under control as much as possible.
So,
Brandy,
I may have the exact time frame, but I think you communicated late yesterday with my office about this application or potential meeting with the commissioners today, and I think it's, at least for me personally, because it went first through my staff, I've had this proposed order less than 10 minutes before the official start time of this meeting. So I'm doing the best I can to get up to speed. When was the application available to all three commissioners?
Commissioner, that was first thing this morning. Terrell Williams, who is my policy advisor, she was working on that order, putting it together for me, just because she, as you know, as a former aide, had experience in the oil and gas industry. And unfortunately, where she was in Houston, lost power as well. So that did not come over till late this morning for us to all get sent out to everyone for input. And then as soon as she got that finished, then kind of worked to get an order out for folks to review as well in working with offices, as I understand it.
All right. I just asked you when, so if you said this morning, that answers it. This application, am I correct, targets on essentially one matter, and that's the prorationing percentage and how long a change would last, what term would last. Am I correct? Is the focus of the target of this application the prorationing percentage?
Yes, that was the initial application. It was adjusting proration to respond to the emergency.
Okay, thank you. Now, you
Commissioner
mentioned
Hyatt, at some time I'm going to have some questions too. I appreciate that Commissioner Anthony's asking questions, but there's some others that have questions too, and I'm a little challenged with my connection. Thank you.
Okay, I will be here all day, and I'll listen to all your questions until you finish them. I don't think I'll go on too much longer, but what I'm trying to get at, Brandy, is the prorationing factor is something that's important to Oklahoma dealing with this crisis situation and this shortage of gas supply. I think in about August, issued a 6-month order, and the time frame expires March 31st of the current order that's in effect, and it was reduced to a 50% factor. Apparently, that has contributed to the shortage situation we face right now. Is that correct?
Commissioner, that would be beyond my ability to speak to that. What it's being attributed to right now was freeze off of the supplies that were out there. So where people had supply ready to go, there's freeze off. So this is seen as a way to get additional on the system beyond that what was already planned to cover, is how it's been put to me in the technical conversations.
And changing the percentage isn't necessarily going to change the freeze offs either. But your application to change to 100% is supported at 100% by the draft order that I've seen in the 10 minutes prior to this meeting starting. So, and I'm willing to wholeheartedly support the 100%. I think we ought to go wide open. And now my question is this 14 days. I think that's ridiculous myself. We have a current order that went for a period of time that is essentially a 6-month period of time ending March 31. So this 14 days would be a certain 14-day period of time, and then you'd have another period of time from the end of that to March 31, which I guess it would go back to the existing order, which is 50%. So we're telling people in business, the gas production business, you have been at 50%. Now we're going to go to 100% for 14 days. Then we're going to go back to 50% until March 31. And then we have another hearing this Thursday where staff has given a proposal to go to 75%. That seems like whipsaw. That seems like back and forth. That seems like one of the worst things that regulators can do to an industry that's essential to the health, safety, and welfare of the people, and that is be unpredictable and fluctuating and adding to the disruption that goes by. All right, are you aware that there's a proposal that your application only be approved for 14 days?
I saw that right before the hearing as well. Unfortunately, I did not work on the order. I was tied up with with those SPP calls. I will say my original testimony and what my recommendation was asking was
been automatically extended.
Was for an order that would approve this 100% until such time as otherwise ordered by the commission. I will say, Commissioner, I will not pretend to be an expert on all things oil and gas, so I couldn't necessarily speak to the pros or cons of limiting it. My hope was just to have it available to us until such time as we're able to get through the emergency and kind of get things back in shape to handle should another storm, roll through, is kind of the hope from my public utility standpoint.
Well, my personal
the purpose of this order is not to. It's not it's not to set the long-term standards. There's an emergency. We have an emergency on our hands right now, and we're trying to address that emergency and get through the next few days. The longer we take to get this order out, the longer it's going to be before we can open those wells and start addressing the emergency.
And not causing chaos and disruption to the companies we're looking to respond. I think at a minimum that we should go till March 31st, unless you want to have these periods on again, off again, back again. All right. Brandy, thank you for your answers to my questions. I guess my last one is, sometimes there's a prevailing party. You're the applicant. I don't know of any opposition to this matter. Have commission attorneys like Susan Conrad, who's been involved in almost every commission order in the last 20 years, has she been involved in principally recommending and drafting this order, to your knowledge?
Yes, Commissioner. While I have not looked at the merits of the input, I can say I did see an email earlier where Ms. Conrad did weigh in with some recommended adjustments to the order, but I honestly have not had a chance to look at those as to substance or not. I would assume they are, knowing Ms. Conrad.
And one more time, we're calling this meeting on an emergency with the shortest notice that I've seen, but I think the emergency demands it, and we're dealing with prorationing, presumably because it's important and a difference. And so I think that on the face of the application that it says or means that the 50% figure has caused a problem or contributed to the problem of shortage of supply. You can respond to that further if you care to.
That's not established. No one knows that. That's not established at all. Maybe that's your opinion, but there's nothing been established in this case that says that, and so we're not going that direction. Let's let Commissioner Murphy ask her questions.
Mr. Hyatt, I'm stating it as my understanding and my reading and asking the witness to respond. He's the witness. You and I are just the commissioners. That's the last thing I have, and I'm happy to go to Commissioner Murphy.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt.
Absolutely. What I can say is, in all the discussion with the utilities, Secretary of Energy, and the other players in this, no one mentioned that proration was a causal effect, but that adjusting it was more of a solution because of the unexpected load issues. So I could not say that anyone has mentioned it as a causal effect, and I sure would not testify to that because I had not dealt with proration before these conversations, but it has been listed as a potential benefit to assist with this temporary issue. I hope that's responsive, but that's about the limit of my technical understanding on that topic.
Thank you.
Commissioner Murphy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. What I was trying to let Commissioner Anthony know is my cell phone service here is incredibly challenging. So that was the point I was making, not to try to be rude or hurry someone along. So just a couple of questions. As I read the draft order, and I believe all the offices have had limited time to look at it, and if you hear a little calf bawling in the background, it's one we're trying to feed here in the house. So we have our own challenges here with the power out as well. So my question on the draft order, I know that others worked on it. I thought it said 14 days or until otherwise ordered by the commission. So I'm going to be voting to support the 100%. I just didn't really know about the exact language because we've had a lot of edits. So I'm just putting that out there for you, Chairman Hyatt. And then, Brandy, just a couple of questions. I think Bob Commissioner Hyatt actually asked one of the questions I would have asked. This application is for prorationing. You've brought up some other issues, which I think are very important. My concern is this particular order deals with prorationing. It does not deal with power entities coordinating with natural gas producers and all of these other issues. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that those were not listed at the time of the testimony, correct?
Okay. I don't think there's any issue with your testimony. I think it's the application says prorationing. I think if you had testimony that covered other areas, that would be fine, but I don't know that those could be covered in this particular order because we're here on what was in the application that was filed. So I am open to looking at other issues such as how the the electric entities coordinate with natural gas producers to maximize production. So if there's curtailment, that might not impact saltwater disposal wells and other issues which would impact the ability to produce natural gas. I'm sure probably all the commissioners have heard from some farmers and ranchers that are concerned about chicken coops and greenhouses, and everybody has requests for every issue, which are all very important and life-threatening to both people and animals. I don't know that this proceeding with this application is the appropriate place to do something in an order, but I don't see any problem with having the testimony about it. So, Chairman Hyatt, I just raised that issue. It's really not a question to Brandy, but it's something to consider. I'm open to it. I don't think this order can cover that. Brandy, I don't have any other questions. I'll just mention to the others that I've been involved on all the Southwest Power Pool calls and notices too, and appreciate what Brandy and Jason Chaplin and all of our team is doing on Southwestern Power Pool because we've had updates and some calls that they typically don't have. That's it for me. Thank you, Chairman Hyatt.
Thank you. Brandy, the only question that I have is, do you feel like the order covers everything and that we would be ready to proceed with the order as drafted?
I think for the issue of proration, and based on Ms. Conrad's support being, and Robin Strickland and her folks, with them being comfortable that this will allow it to have an immediate effect, I am comfortable with that as well. I am concerned about the other issue we mentioned, and I will say I would agree with Commissioner Murphy's concern about this actual order. I would say that the hope was bringing it up as possibly an additional emergency under our authority, maybe taking it up separate from this issue while we were in the meeting. So I would totally agree that this order could and should go forward as it is ready for this issue to get the ball rolling.
Right. And I think maybe there is some confusion out there. There are multiple issues happening. This is specifically pro-rationing, and I think maybe there is some feeling that it's all tied together with rolling blackouts and all of that. But this is, as has been mentioned now by all three commissioners, this is specifically addressing the pro-rationing issue. So with that, if there's nothing further, we'll ask the Commission Secretary to...
Mr. Chairman, I've got something. Commissioner Murphy was making reference to, I think, the last paragraph of the order where it does give the 14 days, and then it says whichever date occurs first. So the way I read that is it's going to be at least or at most 14 days. So
that's correct.
So, Commissioner Murphy, you're making reference to the Commission having a different decision. Would you be willing to change that to whichever occurs later?
Like you, Commissioner Anthony, I'm going to have to look at the language a little closer because I've seen about 3 edits in the email. So I'm just leaving it to the chairman to tell us which version is the one that we're actually voting on.
Well, the language currently is 14 days or until otherwise ordered by the Commission, whichever occurs first. So the effect of that language is that this will stay in place for 14 days unless we decide to cut it short. We could cut it to 10 days or 8 days or whatever. but 14 days would be the maximum length of time, which should be the plenty of time to get us through the storm.
All right, and Mr. Chairman,
We can always extend it.
There's an order. I thought I heard you about to call a vote, and so your motion is regarding the order that's been sent to us most recently. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. I make a motion that we amend that motion to change the word first to the word later. So it'd be 14 days or later if the commission decides on a different time. So that's an amendment to your motion. To change one word. It's in the last paragraph, just above the signatures. So Commissioner Murphy, if you want to do 14 days or a period determined by the commissioners, then that still applies. But it would just have this thing.
I would make an amendment to your amendment to just strike the words "which occurs first." So we would strike comma whichever occurs first. So it would then read, "This formula percentage is effective immediately and shall remain in effect for 14 days or until otherwise ordered by the commission, period."
I support that amendment. I support that amendment to Commissioner Anthony's amendment.
Commissioners, I apologize.
Les.
I apologize, Commissioners. This is Mike Velez of the Public Utility Division. I believe there are, I'm sorry, we can do it after the vote if you'd like to do that, but I know Mr. Reith wanted to make another statement as well.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Reith.
Just because someone asked earlier, I wanted to clarify. During the hearing, we did receive notice that SPP has issued a temporary all clear for customers that had been curtailed to be reconnected as of right now. Obviously, that's moving, changing, but since someone had asked if there was a reconnect, we have received notice that all clear has been issued temporarily.
Okay. All right. So let's vote on the amendment to Commissioner Anthony's amendment. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, if it'll simplify things, I'll withdraw my motion and let Commissioner Murphy just tell us between the two of you how you want it to read.
All right, thank you. So it will read, this formula percentage is effective immediately and shall remain in effect 14 days or until otherwise ordered by the commission, period.
No, not right now, Kitty. No, I'm sorry, baby, no.
We have that. All right. Let's take up the order. Or, Madam Secretary, if you'd please call the roll on the order.
Okay, Commissioners, this is Peggy Mitchell, and I will call the roll. Commissioner Hyatt?
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Murphy?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Order is approved. Thank everyone for your timely cooperation today and jumping on the line so fast. And
Commissioner, I apologize.
Yes, Mike,
Commissioner, I
go ahead.
apologize. This is Mike Velez, and Mr. Reith had his hand raised. I think he wanted to discuss the gas issue.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, and sorry, Commissioner, it's just, and I had discussed this with Agency Counsel Michelle Craig prior to the meeting just to make sure it was appropriate to bring this up due to the nature of the emergency and timing. So if she needs to speak up, she can. But the concern here is since this filing was made this morning, there have been additional and significant issues in the gas systems. As I said earlier, that there are freeze-offs at the processing plants. There are concerns about pressures being maintained in the system, all the things that we hear talking about, in the press right now and in all of your updates from the utilities. And one of the concerns that is out there is ensuring that there's actually enough commodity available to pressurize the systems and to maintain the end user natural gas services for heating, and to ensure that the natural gas plants are maintaining the ability to run, which of course, if we lose those plants, then the Southwest Power Pool plan to maintain service becomes severely inhibited, and additional curtailments and longer periods of time are possible. Those are not speculation. Those are very realistic possibilities. And so what I would like to raise for discussion of the commission and or guidance, if the preference is some additional filing, but I would like guidance on the concept of, and they've done this in other states during this emergency, is basically giving direction to the storage, transport, and distribution natural gas companies to basically dispatch the gas service on a life, health, and welfare basis, prioritizing human life and safety, which would, of course, be end users for heating, generation of electricity to maintain electric service for heat. And that is something that has come up in discussions with numerous industry personnel. I have notified Secretary Wagner's office, and he may be on the call if there's any additional comments from the Secretary. But it is an area of significant concern that we wanted to raise because that has just arisen, as I say, after the filing of this case and just before the hearing, that these are significant concerns that do not come without issues or concerns of their own, but basically prioritizing that human life and safety is something that we would like to have a conversation around. If there's guidance, direction, anything the commissioners would like to see, if there's any action that can be taken. Again, I'm not an attorney. I wanted to be sure and bring that information to the commissioners as soon as we had it for discussion to see if there were any additional steps or direction, guidance, or order and vote for action that would be appropriate. And I'd be happy to answer any questions I can around that.
Chairman Hyatt, this is Commissioner
Yes.
Murphy, and I don't see any problem with the testimony and the statements that are made. I think the one issue that I would just have a little bit of concern with, and I do think if we need to figure out what we can do, is that if we are asking companies that already have contracts to do something different, I think we need to be really thoughtful about it. Not so thoughtful that we don't try to take, emergency type action, but I need to look at this issue a little bit more personally for myself from a legal standpoint. I am aware of it. I would like to see us try to do something about it. I'm really not clear what we can do. I don't know if there's an order we can vote on or an application. I don't know if it's some kind of a directive type thing. I'm not really sure what it is, and I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough, but I could get myself up to speed if I had a little bit more time. So I wanted to mention that. And one other thing why I still have the floor is I need to ask if the commission offices will make sure they speak with Curtis Johnson, who pointed out I think there might be an addition about our emergency response power that I'm not sure if it was added into the proposed order. So if somebody could just check with him, that's just a belts and suspender issue. It wouldn't change the substance. Thank you.
I don't know if it's exactly what Commissioner Murphy just made reference to, but for us to have this emergency meeting, and I'm pleased that the Attorney General's office, Mr. Hunter, has given some direction and blessing to it. But sometimes we call on Michelle Anderson at the early part of the meeting to explain why the emergency posting was necessary. It looked like that was covered in the application, but Commissioner Murphy, is part of what you're saying right now, that that needed to be a part of the meeting, a part of the minutes, and a part of the order.
I just wanted to make sure, Commissioner Anthony, that it was included in the order, and I think it would be subsumed in the application, but I can't see it right now based on how I'm connected, so I would just ask that there be a reference to that and it be incorporated as appropriate. I think he mentioned it was 8D, and I don't know what portion it is. Again, I'm kind of limited on how I'm responding today. Thank you.
I support the edit that I believe Commissioner Murphy has brought to our attention, and I think it will be handled with specificity and expeditiously.
Okay, anything further, Brandy?
I guess we will prepare possibly another emergency filing, requesting maybe a relief related to that. So I'll get with Mr. Velez and we'll see what we can put together. And I don't know if Secretary Wagner had joined us. I don't know if he had any comments, but since he has joined us, Commissioner, I didn't know, Chairman, if you'd like to call on him or see, not to put him on the spot, but I hate for folks to join if they have comments and maybe just can't see it because of Scopia.
Secretary Wagner, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. I can hear you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and commissioners and those who've joined. Let me first just say I cannot be more proud of to be even tangentially affiliated with an organization as I am yours right now. Brandy, Mr. Reith has literally been willing to answer the phone at midnight. He has kept us as closely informed as I could have imagined. Commissioner Hyatt, I know you've called, and Commissioner Murphy, you've kept me updated as well, and that has allowed for coordination that I couldn't have done otherwise, and that includes, continually talking to our utilities, power providers, gas providers, certainly our producers and midstream folks, and it has literally been a rolling conversation for about 72 hours now, and since Friday, and Brandy has helped quarterback that, and I am very. I don't want that to go unnoticed. So, as far as the order, we were certainly supportive of the idea that we could unleash every tool we can for our critical, oil and gas producers, specifically for gas producers. And so I think we supported the proration order in the way that you all have worked through it. With it, as it relates to, an order, I'm very thankful that the SPP has, at least for the moment, withdrawn their level 3 energy emergency announcement, which would involve curtailment. So at least we've dodged that bullet for a moment. But the gas problem, hearing that gas processing plants are actually shutting down, that we've gone from 6 billion cubic feet per day to well below 4 billion cubic feet per day is concerning as this emergency continues. And so I would just say that if there's another filing by Mr. Reith, and we have to just how we prioritize.
They've temporarily withdrawn that for the moment.
Versus
please mute your devices. Please mute your devices.
So that would be my only comment. The governor certainly knows that these are very difficult decisions you all are making and considering, and we want to be your partner in supporting those in any way we can. So that would be all I would say. We're here to continue to support you all in these tough policy decisions.
I'd offer one quick thought. Randy, if you're going to ask for another emergency application and meeting, I believe we have one already scheduled for this Thursday, and I would suggest that you check that out if that time frame works for you.
We will check that out, Commissioner. I don't know if that timing will avoid some of the potential issues. We will work diligently over the next few hours to get guidance on the situation, and I will say we will endeavor to do that, but it may need to happen sooner, just depending on the technical information we find out. But we will be very considerate of that if possible.
All right. Anything further? Seeing nothing further, we will adjourn the meeting at 2:20.
All right. Well, that was confusing at times, but all right. Well, it's all been kind of confusing, and it's been a crazy hair day, but anyway, just kind of update what's going on. All this really happened really, really fast today, and it really started. A Channel 5 reporter somehow got with OG&E, and that's how all this information came out. OG&E didn't put out a press release. They didn't go to Twitter. They didn't go to Facebook. They just did an interview with the Channel 5 reporter about an hour ago, and then at 2:07, 16 minutes ago, they finally put something out. It was 17 minutes ago. OG&E put out, "We've been directed by SPP to initiate temporary service interruptions to manage regional system load and avoid protracted power outages. It is urgent we do our part to conserve power to help the region navigate their current situation and minimize their interruptions." So that's what OG&E has put out. Let me make sure they haven't put anything else out. No, that's the only thing they really put out. All this stuff has been gathered by reporters over the last hour or so. There was a temporary all clear. I know Stillwater was set to have their first controlled power outage, and that I think they got cleared from that as well. Some other quick notes here. The Guthrie baseball scrimmages, Monday and Tuesday, those are canceled. The basketball games for Guthrie, they were going to play Piedmont. That's canceled Tuesday. But getting back to this real quick, just got a few more things that I found here during that meeting. Brian Alford with OG&E says blackouts are underway for an hour or so for customers headed into Tuesday. Alford expects the return to work from the holiday is expected to strain the grid even more. So a lot of businesses, like today, Guthrie Public Schools was out President's Day, but there's a lot of businesses that were also closed today. You know, when all those eventually go back to school and work, that's going to be more on the grid. Plus, we got more weather coming in as well. Another thing that Alford said, who's with OG&E again, a blackout is uncontrolled event. So he doesn't use the term in this case because the power disruptions are intentional. So it's not a blackout, is what that says there. I think that's all I've been able to find here real quick. There's a little bit of article on Guthrie News page that I just kind of put together really, really fast because all this really, really happened really, really fast. It's been out there. It's the first time it's ever been to a level 3. So anyway, that was the Corporation Commission meeting, emergency meeting, which at times went off the side, I thought, several times. Kind of hard to follow at times. But anyway, if anything else breaks down, as far as Guthrie is concerned, it's hard to say because Guthrie, of course, is part of the OG&E. If we were in Stillwater, Evan, who have their own power companies, they can probably say, hey, we're going to do this here, here, and here. But in Guthrie, I don't think OG&E is going to exactly tell us this town or this neighborhood or this part of the neighborhood is going to be down for an hour. So the good thing is, if it does happen to you or wherever, if it's only an hour, hopefully you can prepare now. Batteries, make sure your phones are charged. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully in Guthrie we won't have to do that. I'm looking at the power outages right now, and I don't have any idea if it's even dealing with this controlled outage. But Edmond has 390 customers out, and Oklahoma City with 167. So still a little confusing out there a little bit, but anyway, that is what we know now. I'll update anything with Facebook, Twitter. If it's really important, a push notification. Be sure to sign up for push notifications on Guthrie News page. Also update the article as much as I can. And I don't know if there's any questions out there. And to be honest with you, I probably would not be able to answer them anyway. Anyway, that was the latest there. Again, I'll pass any information I can on the Facebook and social media. Until then, thanks for tuning in.